Kids died from heart attacks, and they admitted after the fact that they knew that could be a risk. And first, they gaslit the moms who were saying it happened.
And that is not true. But
what do you mean it's not true? There was a kid who won a lawsuit for myocarditis. He quite literally, if you can look this up on Yahoo News, myocarditis, he actually won. The government had to pay him, I believe it was in the Philippines, who had to actually pay him. And after that point, after that lawsuit, they started putting the warning on the vaccines that it can cause myocarditis. So it doesn't help. It doesn't help if you're saying that you're no longer a part of the establishment, you're doing your podcast, at least acknowledge the things that even they have acknowledged now, that it causes myocarditis, that it can impact menstruation. Anything that is impacting your menstruation.
I never said I wasn't part of the establishment, by the way. I said I did not work for CNN, but go on.
Okay. So okay. I'm glad you're admitting you're part of the establishment.
No, I mean, I don't believe that I'm part of an establishment, any sort of establishment. You would have to,
That was
the
wonderful.
premise is that I belong to some part of an establishment.
What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. Today, guys, we're back continuing a video. Today, we're going to be checking out Don Lemon and Candace Owens clash on gay marriage. Okay, this is going to be amazing because they talked about religion here. I would love to see how Candace Owens demolishes Don Lemon. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be a nice ride. Let's get right to it, guys. Poof.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know about, I'm not sure I would call it an indoctrination. I do believe that it's legitimate to say that you have questions about it because it's a lot to take in. I wouldn't necessarily call it an indoctrination. And when I grew up, there were definitely trans people. And maybe there wasn't an awareness of it in the world or the country at large, but I remember trans people growing up. I remember people who were cross-dressers growing up. My girlfriend's brother was a transvestite growing up. So there were definitely people who were out there who were part of the trans community. And I remember the threats that Chris got from my girlfriend's brother. I remember people on the street throwing things at him and threatening him. So I'm not sure it's an indoctrination. I think it's just maybe an awareness of things that happen in society. And that doesn't mean that the pendulum doesn't swing too far sometimes, but I'm not sure I would call it an indoctrination. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, when I was in school, I learned that it was a mental disorder. I know that's changed, but it was in the DSM-5 as a mental disorder. And I accept that there are mental disorders, and people that are suffering from mental disorders should never be treated by people harassing them or people yelling at them or calling them names. So I'm sorry that someone that you knew went through that. But when people had mental disorders, it wasn't, at least it wasn't commonplace to try to teach them about and normalize the mental disorders in classrooms, because children are experimenting with ideas and children always want to be different. And if you say to kids, like, obviously propaganda works. If you tell kids smoke cigarettes, they all start smoking cigarettes. We've learned this. And then in my generation, we stomped out smoking cigarettes because of the reverse course on that and saying, like, no, actually cancer kills. They taught us in the classroom that cancer kills. And now the majority of people who were smoking like crazy in the 80s are not smoking anymore. So we know that psychological conditioning works, and that the majority of these 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds are not non-binary. They're just learning that as a way to be different, they can experiment with these things. And unfortunately, these have very evil results, because kids are being put on drugs that are quite literally used on pedophiles.
Well, that's not necessarily so. But listen, let me just say that about
a drug. I think there are a lot of things on pedophiles in prison. That's what's being given to children.
There's a lot to respond to that as far as the indoctrination. If it was an indoctrination, then I went to a Catholic school, so then I would be, a straight male married to a woman who attends church every single day. If there was any sort of indoctrination that was happening, so apparently the indoctrination at the Catholic school did not work on me, because I ended up being the exact opposite of what they wanted. The other thing is that the whole idea that they're giving young children drugs at an age, and the children are getting to decide at an age that they need these medical drugs for transitioning, that is absolutely not true.
What do you mean that's not true? You can get,
and also,
you can get puberty blockers as a child. I had a whole person on my show who spoke to that transition
of the family. You can get puberty blockers as a child, but The
Yes.
parents have to decide that. That's not
Yes, so
some
they can get
child
puberty blockers.
who's decided. The parent and the
Yeah,
child
it's
gets
the
to
same thing.
decide that. So
Okay, but that they should puberty
that's a
blockers
whole nother thing. And then
fundamentally
you're
alter
saying it's
them
a
for
mental
life.
disorder. You understand that it has not been, it's been deemed not to be a mental disorder. And then you're saying that it, that you're, in your rhetoric, you're saying that it's a mental disorder.
It is a mental
It's not
disorder.
a
That's what I
mental
learned in
disorder.
school.
It's not
It
a
is a
mental
mental disorder.
Okay,
If you
so
think that you're a boy and you're actually a girl, you are suffering from a mental disorder, obviously, because you can't
True.
actually change your sex, obviously.
I
You
know
can
plenty
get
of
you can
children
get
now. I know
you
plenty
can
of
play
young
dress up, but you
I know
can't change your
plenty of
sex.
young
gender,
people
yeah.
and old people who are trans, right? And they are not pretending. And it is not a mental disorder.
Well, it is
They
pretending because
know,
you will literally never be able,
they
if you are a
know,
little boy, to grow up and have a
and
baby
their
because
parents know.
you're
And
not a little
I would
girl.
hope that your child
So
would not grow up, or your children would not grow up and then thinking that they're trans and then their parents telling them the exact opposite.
I would
That would
tell
not be,
them that they have a mental disorder
yeah.
and we're going to get them
As
help.
simple as that.
I
So
want to play this
that's really
because,
important.
to continue this conversation, when I say that, I think that your views have changed over time. This is a clip from one of your shows. It was just last week as we continue this conversation. It's about flat Earth and round Earth and conspiracies. Let's play this.
Sure.
If there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe. And of course, he pushed me on this and he was talking about the earth curvature and science. And I said to him, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am is I am somebody who has left the cult of science. I have left the mega church of science because what I have now realized is that science, what it is actually, if you think about it, is a pagan faith.
Okay.
It's just a
Candace,
small
Yeah.
contest.
do you
about what she
actually
said.
believe this stuff, or are you saying it because you want to generate outrage and you want more attention and you want people to sort of click on your show? Do you actually believe that? I mean, science is science. What do you mean the cult of science? What do you believe? You're not a flat earther or a round earther?
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
sometimes I think you're a very bright and very intelligent woman. And I said, is she just playing in our faces? Like, what's that all about?
Well, first, let me ask you, did you watch the full episode or did your producers pull a clip out of
No,
context?
I did not watch the full episode, but I'm
Okay, so
asking
let me
you
put it
to
into
obvious.
put it
context.
into
Yeah, no,
context.
sure. I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to put it
Thank
into
you. Thank
context
you.
because that's the beauty of the media. It's just always a
Yeah.
clip and then people go, oh, what's going on here? So that was an episode we were talking about birth control. I was sharing, I'm very passionately against the birth control because of all the women who in my life are suffering side effects, who can't get pregnant, and are realizing that inserting copper IUDs into your body over time can have an impact. And women
Yeah.
were sharing their stories online about how the doctor told them it was safe and effective, and it obviously wasn't safe and effective long term because people just simply accept what the experts tell them without thinking. We saw this during COVID, so I'm very comfortable saying this. People, if I had been saying this years ago, people would have been like, she's crazy, but this is what we mean when we say science. And by the way, these ideas, if you want someone even more brilliant than me who wrote about this, C.S. Lewis would be a great starting place. He termed this scientism, where the people that are in control of science create a faith. They create a faith by saying, well, the experts say 6 feet social distancing works. And so everyone starts walking around with 6 feet social distance between them until Fauci comes around like he did recently and say, we kind of made that up. We were just guessing. The experts say the COVID vaccine, if you get it, you will not transmit or be able to get COVID.
Not exactly
And
what
then they
they
go,
said, but go on.
actually, that wasn't true. So people, and without knowing that, subjected their bodies and said, okay, I'm going to get this vaccine. Then they say the science has changed. Well,
True.
if the science changes and you've already impacted your body, as many women, I did not get the COVID vaccine, and I'm not meaning to judge people who did, but a lot of my female friends were having menstruation issues, as we talked about on the show. A lot of my female friends had miscarriages, as we talked about on the show, simply because they trusted the experts, not because they actually knew
You don't know
that
that
the
for sure that they
science
had
was
you don't know for
accurate.
sure that they had a miscarriage because of the vaccine. That's
They
what
had
they're assuming.
first and foremost, they've already admitted that the vaccine, we're now past COVID era scientism. So they've admitted that the 6 feet social distancing was fraudulent science. They admitted that the masking was
You
fraudulent
realize you're looking at
science.
something in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020 in your Monday morning.
Well, that's the point.
quarterback, right?
And until you
So-
get hindsight, it's just a faith. And that is what I
Yeah.
am talking about on my show. It is just a
Yeah.
faith. People placed faith. It was not a science, it was a faith. Okay?
You said a
Real
phase or a
science.
faith?
So that's a faith. You just believe it. You can't see it. You trust the person. You trust this person who is a science, who's a doctor, who you've enacted as the Lord in your life, and you shouldn't do that. Common sense
Who
to
should
me
you
when I was a
trust?
kid. Common sense to me when I was a kid, like when people were pushing birth control pills on me when I turned like 15, every time I went to the doctor, women who are watching this will relate. They're suddenly like, birth control, you got a pimple, birth control. So I didn't need to trust the science or the experts I just said to myself, yeah, probably not a good idea to microdose yourself with hormones every single day.
What does that have to do with a worldwide pandemic and epidemic where people were?
I'm answering the clip that you just showed. I'm putting this into context.
I know, but you're going.
Yeah.
I want to.
But because that's also what I talked about on my show. This is the beauty of actually watching a full episode and not using a clip. And so I said, now for me, it's going to require a little bit more than a faith, right? Because I'm realizing scientism just gets people to do things based on emotion without actually, and just going, trust the experts, trust the experts. I'm not trusting the experts on anything anymore, okay? I'm going to actually take a look at things and actually try to discern something by myself. Because the experts have lied.
Isn't that based on emotion?
People's lives are ruined. Well? People got myocarditis. Kids died from heart attacks, and they admitted after the fact that they knew that could be a risk. And first, they gaslit the moms who were saying it happened.
And that is not true. But
what do you mean it's not true? There was a kid who won a lawsuit for myocarditis. He quite literally, if you can look this up on Yahoo News, myocarditis, he actually won. The government had to pay him. I believe it was in the Philippines, who had to actually pay him. And after that point, after that lawsuit, they started putting the warning on the vaccines that it can cause myocarditis. So it doesn't help. It doesn't help if you're saying that you're no longer a part of the establishment, you're doing your podcast, at least acknowledge the things that even they have acknowledged now, that it causes myocarditis, that it can impact menstruation. Anything that is impacting your menstruation.
I never said I wasn't part of the establishment, by the way. I said I did not work for CNN, but go on.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad you're admitting you're part of the establishment.
No, I mean, I don't believe that I'm part of an establishment, any sort of establishment. You would have to, you would have to.
That was
the
wonderful.
premise is that I belong to some part of an establishment.
Don Lemon. Wow, this guy is wild. First of all, I love how Candace handled him. Very maturely and precise. This was humiliating, if I use the word. It was very, very humiliating. Candace actually humiliated him in his own show. This was total humiliation. Let's start from the puberty blockers. Like, it is obvious puberty blockers causes more harms than good. Either the parents permit and the child the parents give consent and the child also have consent before they take the puberty blocker. I don't care. What is important is that you are giving puberty blocker to kids. That is the thing. And it's altering that hormone. It's as simple as that. And it is terrible to them. You understand? This guy right here, Don Lemon, he's a gay. And it's obvious, 100% clear that he's a liberal and Democrat. And he believes in all this LGBTQ stuff. And he's looking for a way to gaslight some certain things. He just wants to just push it aside and dismantle Candace Owens. But you can't hide the truth. You understand? Because you did not choose to be, you were brought up in a Catholic church and you choose not to follow the right path that everyone knows, which is a man marries a woman, not a man marries a man. And you feel like it's your own life, it's your own choice. I'm not against you. You are good enough to do that. But the thing is that his mentality is what baffles me. He sees the truth and he chooses not to say the truth out. He just chooses to gaslight it, like push it aside. And I love how Candace brings the truth out to the light so everyone is going to see. This guy took off his glass literally more than 10 times just in this video. Like, why in the world are you taking it off and putting it back? You're just... It's nervous. It's a sign of nervousness. It's a sign that Candace Owens is actually dealing with him properly. Candace was prepared for him, and Candace calmly humiliated him. Calmly, because it's his own show. Candace don't take the whole praises. She calmly dismantled him and humiliated him in his own show. I love how the entire conversation went about. The thing is that we all know that it is obvious to us that sometimes doctors make a lot of mistakes. And they just say, science says this, science says that. So this guy just barely did not watch Candace's video when she was talking about the earth was flat and rounded. He did not watch the entire show. And it's obvious by his own speech. Because that was just a little video out of context. Candace was talking about abortion. And Candace totally detests abortion. Because it's killing of lives. And she was giving a summary, giving like an example about how people have actually are unable to give birth again because of the pills I take. You understand? After pill and stuff, and it's very, very dangerous to their health. And the thing is that people just choose to hide the truth. And we know this thing is harmful. And we choose to say, no, it's not harmful. But 100%, it messes with that hormone, messes with that menstrual period. It allows this after pill drugs. We all know that it's also dangerous for women. So irrespective of how people choose to accept the truth or not, is that the truth still stands. You can't deny it. You can't gaslight it. And Don Lemon is someone who's, for me, is an hypocrite. It's not someone who is genuine. He just hide behind things. It's not genuine. And I love how Candace do not care about his feelings and humiliated him right here and right now in this show. So the entire conversation was actually beautiful to watch. He actually invited the wrong guest. For me, if you ask me, he invited the wrong guest to talk about such topic, because you can't invite Candace over here to talk about trans. She will dismantle you. And also to talk about abortion. She will destroy you, because those two topics she's really, really good at it. She's really good at it and she's familiar with it. We all know that COVID, it was like a lie. You understand? A lot of people find out that some of these vaccines were actually not good for them. Some people were having some reactions to the vaccine. So from COVID, we already know that we can't trust science fully. Not everything they say we should just accept. I didn't take the vaccine myself. So it's not everything that science says we should take fully. We should have to think about it again and make much research. It's very, very important. Also see people who have actually taken it and see how their body changes. So I love how Candace handled him. It was very maturely and very precise. Comment down below what you think about this video. Give us a thumbs up. Share this video to as many as you can. Subscribe to our channel, guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure you stay safe.